You know, sometimes there just isn't that much to a game. Konami's Falsion is a very simple arcade-style shooter with no real power-ups, and not even a huge variety between stages. You might get the impression, based on the title, that Falsion is related to Gradius. They're both misspelled types of swords, after all, but there really isn't a connection here. The most you get is an occasional reference in a game that references a lot of Konami stuff. Falsion is clearly Konami's take on Space Harrier, or more appropriately, Galaxy Force, but Galaxy Force won't be released for another 6 months. You have the behind-the-ship view, you can freely move horizontally and vertically, and enemies rush at you from the distance. The second boss even has a little dragon that swoops back and forth. And I'll give Falsion this. It is amazing that Konami pulled off action that works this fast, and with details that scale this well on the Famicom. Even Sega struggles with getting their super scalar games to work nicely on consoles. So it's impressive that Konami got it to work this well. The plot of Falsion is that a giant alien spacecraft has entered the solar system and is headed towards Earth. Only one new experimental fighter can catch it, and it's up to them to blow up the whole thing. In terms of controls, the B button fires. There is no auto-fire for it, unless you happen to use an auto-fire controller, and the A button fires homing missiles, if you've collected any. As you're shooting your way through stages, sometimes these orbs with a P in them will show up and circle around the edge of the screen. The blue ones increase your speed, the red ones give you homing missiles. You start out with no homing missiles, and every red orb is 5. Getting hit by anything destroys your ship instantly, and you lose all of your homing missiles if that happens, so those are a real use 'em or lose 'em situation. At the end of every stage there's a boss, and it just circles the screen shooting at you, and you'll never guess where its weak spot is. It's the flashing circle. If you get a game over, you can continue, restarting from the beginning of that stage, but you only have one continue. After that, it's game over. There are 6 stages here, and Falsion is brutally difficult. Enemies move fast, they shoot fast, and it's hard to tell how far away anything is. Sometimes you'll just explode and have to figure out what hit you. It takes a while to get a feel for how far away something is just based on the sprite size. You are going to have to memorize enemy patterns if you want any chance of getting through this game. Unfortunately, the terrain itself is pretty generic, so I found it difficult to keep track of those things. There's just very little context clues. Now there might be a way to mitigate this, because Falsion is one of the few games that supports the Famicom 3D system. This is a set of LCD shutter glasses that Nintendo released, and they plug into the Famicom's expansion port. The lenses on the glasses are LCD, which go dark when voltage is applied to them, and each lens alternates 30 times a second. While you can see out of the left eye, you can't see out of the right eye, and vice versa. Meanwhile, the Famicom is displaying 2 different images, alternating those 60 times a second. So your left eye gets one set of images, while your right eye gets a different set of images. And you should be able to resolve this into a 3D image. So surely this would help me aim and dodge better. No, it didn't. The big issues here really seem to be that you have to be precisely lined up with the enemy ships to shoot them down, but they don't have to be lined up to ram into you. And at the same time, the Famicom sprite limits and the movement of large blocky ships prevents you from seeing some things as they're incoming. It also feels like objects stay in the distance very tiny for a while and then suddenly zoom up. And that just makes the timing of everything trickier. As a Konami game, Falsion does have a bit of a following in Japan, but it's mainly remembered for 2 things: the great background music and the absurd difficulty. I myself couldn't get past the 3rd stage while I was playing, and I was often getting obliterated on the 1st stage. Falsion is brutally hard, and really the only way to make any kind of progress is to memorize the game. It is very simple, and it feels like an arcade game from a few years before 1987. It's still worth checking out Falsion for the technical accomplishment. Just be aware that you'll get blown up awfully fast.